Connor, linebackers evolving, is that the word even? Like, I think a lot of people use the word
devolving.
but yeah, it's such a strange state. And I know you kind of wanted to talk about this
Right.
before we dug into the rankings themselves, because how we view these prospects, and as Bill Parcells says, the NFL can only take what the college football people give them when it comes to
Very
prospects.
true.
And you kind of have to change your draft strategy as different types of players of all different shapes and sizes are changing at the college level and coming to the NFL level. But we're in this weird predicament right now where I think we're trying to change over what the linebacker really looks like at the NFL level. And it makes for interesting evals across the board.
It really does. I find myself with this position as much as any, just looking for the best athletes and hoping that they go to a situation that, one, fits their skill set, of course. You could say that about any situation, but at linebacker in today's game, it matters so much because, I mean, the long story short of it, Trevor, you know this, especially with the data we have at PFF and just watching the games, this league has evolved into one that two linebackers, not three linebackers, are really on the field for a majority of the snaps. And that doesn't mean you have less defenders in the box. There's a lot of safeties that live in the box. There's a lot of these chess piece players. They're heavier DBs or DBs that can play heavier. But the bottom line is the days of a 260-pound Mike sitting in the middle of the field with, at least two linebackers, a linebacker on each side of him and really heavy run sets and everything. It's just, even when the NFL teams that are doing that, they can't look at the college game and find guys that way, the way they used to. And I think it's become, quite frankly, a very difficult position to scout. And I never used to say that when I started doing this. I look at, because the things that translate, you get caught up. There's guys that have really good instincts, but are they athletic enough at the next level? There's guys that are really good athletes, but that doesn't mean a lot if you have no instincts. And then, of course, can you play heavy? And when I say play heavy, I mean, can you take on the contact coming at you? Can you work through traffic? Do you have the balance? And can you play fast? Can you play sideline to sideline when it's just a foot race against these really fast quarterbacks and running backs that are running an outside zone? So it's a weird thing where it's not that the linebackers aren't coming pro ready, although a lot of them aren't. But when you look at the college games, so many of them are playing at 215 to 225 pounds. And yes, the NFL linebacker has definitely gotten smaller or lighter because of the speed of the game and because of the necessity to run and chase. But this is still a grown man's game. This is still a come downhill, punch you in the mouth. Can you take my best kind of game with the contact that they need to take on? So I think the long story short of it is, the college game, for the most part, is asking them to be one thing, quite often the best linebacker, the best athlete they could find in the middle of the field.
Yes.
And the NFL is asking them to be everything. And I think that's why you see, I don't want to say a miss rate, although there is one, but also an adjustment rate. I think of Patrick Queen as a recent example. It feels like a guy that just could not get his feet under him, and it's starting to click a little bit. But there's countless examples like that. And we're going to go through a lot of these guys today, and I'm kind of fascinated to see what our top fives for this group look like now compared to when we do them before the draft, because I think there's a lot of change that could happen because of the needs to take certain steps, and naturally just some guys don't.
Yeah, and I think the big one, the headlining one, and there's a lot of other, I think, hybrid examples, but the one that everybody goes to is Isaiah Simmons, right?
Oh,
because Simmons, to this point, is, failure seems really harsh to say about a guy who's still playing in the NFL, but I think everybody looked at Isaiah Simmons and they went, wow, look at this chess piece player for Brent Venables defense. And Venables, one of the most respected defensive minds in all of football, college or the NFL, what he is able to do and how he's able to orchestrate defenses right now, certainly as Oklahoma's head coach now. And I think a lot of people looked at Isaiah Simmons and they went, this guy's going to play linebacker at the next level. He's got insane length. He's got insane athleticism, and he's just going to be this perfect new age, modern hybrid linebacker type of a player. And what ended up happening, Connor, is he couldn't play between the tackles. He didn't have that physicality. So I don't disagree with anything you said. You're looking for these good linebackers, or sorry, these good athletes that are playing at the linebacker position in college. But at the same time, you've got to be able to play between the tackles at the NFL level.
You have to.
And for as much as we want to sit here and focus on coverage, because coverage ability gives you the most bang for your buck, if you will. Like those linebackers that are really great in coverage, those are the ones that obviously negatively impact the passing game for the offense that they're going up against. And those are also the guys that get paid really well, because those coverage instincts, that athleticism, that feel, that eye for takeaways, interceptions, all that, like that's the stuff that gets paid. But at the same time, you got to have that, and you've got to be able to fill the run, right? And you got to be able to fit the gap. And especially as the game is changing and the boxes are getting lighter at the NFL level, the more linebackers you take off the field, sure, we all think about the better range and coverage you have to be if you're one of those two linebackers on the field, but also the stronger you got to be in run defense. You've got to sometimes be able to fill the middle gaps, sometimes the edge gaps, like sometimes both, right? You've got to be able to read and react, and you got to be strong enough to take on pullers or be able to crash the line of scrimmage or be somebody who's going to loop around defensive tackles who are crashing and stunt plays. So it's almost like, we've talked a lot about running backs and the devaluation of their contracts and what they're getting around the league. I sometimes feel as though linebackers get caught up in that too, where people go, oh, you just pay the guys who are really good in coverage, and the rest of them, I mean, you could find a linebacker every year.
Not true.
The more linebackers you're taking off the field, the more you are going to say, hey, nickel is the new base. We're playing with two linebackers instead of three. That just means those two linebackers have to be that much more valuable to what you do. So that does, in turn, make it difficult to sometimes find the guys that you need to, who you can normally check the boxes of these guys being athletic. And we're going to get to that, I think, throughout our top fives. But it's getting harder and harder to check that athletic box and check the strength box. I watched 10 guys for this exercise. Now, I'm probably going to end up watching another 5, 6 maybe before I get to our big board at the end of the summer. But of the 10 guys that I watched, Connor, one was above the 50th percentile in off-ball linebacker weight. 1 out of 10. That just shows you how crazy this movement is to get these guys who are smaller and faster and quicker at the college level. But they've got to be able to answer the questions, can they hold up with strength too? So it's a really interesting conversation. And I think every year we kind of go through this same thing is, can you find those linebackers that can really do it all?
Yeah, and find those types is getting harder and harder. It really is. I can almost sit here and make the case, if you found a unicorn that is a 3-down player that can offer you a little bit of pass rush, that can run and cover and hold up against the run, a lot of people go like, oh, you don't take off-ball linebackers in the first round. Well, I don't necessarily agree with that if you could find that guy, but finding that guy is very hard.